Hello and welcome to the Soul Wisdom Exchange. I'm Regina Curtis. I am a Soul Wisdom mentor and a Soul Source business strategist. And I'm here today with my guest, Miauwling, and we are going to talk about soul wisdom languages, and being a soulpreneur. I'm so excited to have this conversation today. And before we get started, I want to just give a little background on what all those things mean for anyone who's just joining us for the first time today. So, soul wisdom is, in my definition, your authentic ways of knowing how you receive information and being how you express that information. Soul wisdom languages are the ways in which you bring that information speaks to and through you. And being a soulpreneur is an entrepreneur who is guided by that soul wisdom and utilizes those soul wisdom languages in the work they do. So, Miauwling, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's such an honor and such a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about the work that you do and who you are. Let's start there. That's a big
I, yeah, it is. Where do I start?
question. Wherever you're guided to.
My name is Miauwling, and I actually have a confession. The confession is that I am a personal development junkie.
Mm,
I heard that term used the other day,
yeah.
and I said, "Ooh, that's me."
Yeah.
So I was always looking for a title to identify myself when someone says, "So what do you do?" Right. So
Yeah.
the umbrella is really a coach or a guide or a mentor. But
Yeah.
then, someone would say, well, would you guide people in? Would you teach? Would you coach in? Things like that, right? And then there's this whole long explanation. Well, I got my Kundalini yoga training, then I got my Reiki, and then everyone just go, what? I don't get it. Okay, so you got all this, right? But, tell me what you do. And then I go to this long spiel. And I'm like, okay, so how do I explain it? So then I decided to describe it as what I do in my workshop, because that's really what it is, right? Like what I do when I have like a one-on-one, or when I guide a class or facilitate a workshop or something like that.
Yes.
And I guess I would describe it as I take somebody through a journey. It's intense because I am an intense person, so I put that flavor in there. I have a lot of fire in me. Although today I'm wearing blue, right? Because I need a little
Yeah.
bit of water
That's okay. And I
to,
have a ton
to
of earth
help.
energy, so this is actually, I think, can be a really good combination too, because I have that like earth,
Yes,
that earth energy, and you have that fire energy. I
I
love
have
that
the fire in it.
combination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Although I'm Earth sign, like I'm all Earth, Sun and Moon and rising
Really,
too.
what are your
Um,
signs?
Virgo sun and moon, so I'm a double
Oh,
Virgo, and a Taurus rising.
interesting.
So, but
Okay.
I think the fire is from the Leo. I have Venus in Leo, so my expression is very
Yeah,
fiery. It's very like super expressive. If I feel really comfortable, it's a really really expressive and
I love
expansive.
that.
So
My
that's
moon, my moon is in Virgo as well. I actually have 5 planets, and my North Node are in Virgo, so I have a ton of Virgo energy. But my
mm,
Sun is in Capricorn, but I do have that Earth. I'm Earth, Sun, Moon as well, but I'm Aries rising, so I have the fire in my rising sign.
ah.
Very
Very
cool.
nice. I think I get along a lot with earth signs. They stabilize me. Maybe they stabilize the fire too.
Yeah.
Um,
So I love this. I love that we're talking about this right now because right before we got on to this conversation, so I was, we get on and do a tech check and whatever. Um, Behind the scenes, there you go. That's what happens before we go live. But we were talking about that, I have these themes that drop in sometimes for the conversation. And today I wanted to talk about layers of influence. So the fact that this just naturally came up is beautiful. And also how you did your intro, because I think this is a really important conversation, especially for soulpreneurs, about recognizing that it can be difficult to identify what it is you do and put a label on it, right? Whether it's a title, whether it is like a job title, or even like a title for an experience that you're creating, or creating a description of what it is that you do, because in my experience, a lot of soulpreneurs, myself definitely included, um, we are, what we're creating in the world as our work is an expression of our own journey. And when we tap into that journey, I mean, it's the whole thing, right? It's not, you don't go necessarily to school to be you, right? Like, although I had this dream of creating something called university and having it be, I know, like, it's so exciting. I call myself a self-development nerd, but I mean it in the most like genuine and excited way. Like, I see being nerdy about something as being like all in, on for the, on for the journey, up for the ride. And I see that as a very positive thing. So I don't see that at all as a negative connotation. But um when you are trying to describe what you do to people, there isn't necessarily one blanket term for that, because it is an expression of all the things that you are, and all the things that you know, and all the things, the ways that you know as well. So, right, how do you put one label on that? That's hard to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. It is. So what I had started doing was when people come to my class or workshop, at the
Uh-huh.
end, I have them say, "Can you please describe to me what you just experienced?"
Yes.
Because sometimes I'm using languages that may not necessarily be the languages that they would use when they experience it, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I would ask, and I said, let me know, so this way I have an idea, so you can educate me and inspire me on what I do.
Yes.
It's
You know,
literally that.
I love that you brought that up too, because I literally just, well, I actually just had that conversation with one of my own mentors, and with someone who I have been working with as a mentor. I had that conversation both ways, because it is um it's so important to understand, like, how are people actually experiencing what you're doing. And one of the really interesting things that I found, when so my mentor asked me to describe how I've experienced her work. And I was like, okay, let me do that. And so I go in to like share what I've experienced, and it's this very kind of wandering description of like, this happened and that happened, and there were some things in there that were very tangible. Um, but I felt like I was like rambling, when I was saying it. I was like, oh, well, there's this, and it kind of energetically is like this, and then it helped me transform this, and blah, blah, blah. And she reflected back to me. She's like, thank you so much for that description. It resonates so much with me, and what it made me realize. And I had a similar realization myself when I did this process, that the language that I'm using actually is resonating with the people who are meant to work with me, right? So it may feel a bit woo, or a bit out there, or a bit, ethereal, or whatever label that we're trying to put on it, because it doesn't fit into those, like, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a, like, there are certain terms. But even if you think about those terms, like, you can say I'm a doctor, there's like a million different ways to be a doctor, right? And so, why then do we get so hung up with it when we say, oh, I'm a mentor or I'm a coach? There's also a million different ways that you can be that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and there is a bit more exploration that needs to then come into that, because, okay, well, what do you coach on, right? What do you do? How do you help people? And when we're doing that work in those emotional and energetic levels, the words are going to match that frequency. Does that Makes sense. Does that
Yeah.
like I know I just went on like a huge tangent.
No, that is really what it is. Because when
Yeah.
I ask people that came to the class or workshop that I do, I said,
Mhm.
okay, just describe what it is. And essentially, they are describing what they're feeling or maybe how they feel afterward, right? And there's an immersive component to it and experiential thing to
Mhm.
to the classes and workshop that I do. But at the end, what they're doing is that they're basically describing me, right? They're describing my energy because I'm putting my energy
Yeah.
into my work is backed up by that energy. So I
Yeah.
said, okay, essentially they're describing me, right? They get
Yeah.
me and my style. So
Yes.
I'm learning that
Yeah.
because you could take yoga, you could take meditation. There's tons of meditation teachers or yoga teachers out
Right.
there, right? But when you take it with each person, you get their flavor, you get their
Yes.
style, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, it's really that's what's coming out of me. Sure,
Exactly.
I may learn how to do something or get certified in it, right? But it's not I'm not doing it like a surgery, like procedure.
There's no
Hey,
necessarily,
see,
like, prescribed
yeah.
format for that, right? Because
Mhm.
it is you teaching it, and even when there is a template for something, you are like you said, I love the words that you use, that you're bringing your flavor into it, right? You're bringing in your essence, your way of embodying that and expressing it. So, is it okay if I jump in for a second and, like, something's coming in, like, really strongly of, like, this is how when I work with someone to do soul sourced business strategy, right? This is what we do. I listen to what is it that you do? What is it that your clients are receiving, right? And then we help put that into that structure. So what just came through for me when you were talking is that you describing your energy and who you are, that's your marketing strategy right there, right? That is the language that you use. And this is why, because the people who are wanting that are energetically aligned with that in a harmonious way, right? It's complementary. And so when they read, oh, this is the experience I'm getting, there's some energetic connection with them, that attraction that's saying, oh, I need that. I need that to create this wholeness that I'm seeking, right? And it's not a wholeness as in something in them is missing or something in you is missing and you have to come together in order to create a whole, but it is that there is an attraction to that because there is this there's something that they're calling in. They're recognizing there's a need for them in some way. And when you speak that, they can then align with that and say, yes, that's an experience I want to do. And that's soul based marketing right there. That's not looking to, um, I think one of the things that comes up a lot in this field with whether you call it spiritual entrepreneurs, soul based entrepreneurs, wellness, health and wellness, whatever, there's a lot of times there's a resistance to marketing because the way that we've been taught in a more like I'll just call it like the old paradigm way of doing business, right? The way that we maybe did that in a corporate space, or maybe the way that we've seen that happen is that marketing is uses psychology and sociology to create language to trick you into doing something that you don't want or buying something that you don't need. And that's not always the case, by the way, but it can be used in that way. What I just explained is it's really being authentic and honest about what it is that you're doing in such a soul aligned way that you're giving people the information and giving them the opportunity to then say, choose, right? Yes, this is something I want to experience, or no, that doesn't resonate for me.
It goes both way actually because when I do market my stuff and then I'm really aligned and I'm saying the words because I feel them and this is the way I feel and then
Yeah.
this is how I can help them with it, then what's coming in is exactly that.
Yes.
And let's say there have been times in the beginning when I wasn't as aligned and I was confused and I was using words that I thought would attract clients
Yeah.
and I did. I did attract clients and students, but they were not aligned. They weren't looking for what I could give them. And it
Yes.
was so uncomfortable for
Yeah.
me. It felt similar to if I had gone to a seminar and then realized at that seminar in the middle of it, oh, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I thought it is. So it felt exactly like that. And I
Yeah.
didn't like how that felt.
And you
Yeah.
feel like tricked or bewildered, like, how did I even get here? Right. Like,
Yeah.
because there is, and if I like really deepen it into listening to what it is that you said, when you created those marketing, whatever they were, like when you put those words out there and used words that you thought people wanted, then you were looking to what it was that they needed. And yes, there are people that need that. Like you could put any word out and there's always someone who's going to need that, right? But if it doesn't align for you also, then you're the one who's not experiencing the thing that you want, right? And so you
Hmm.
show up in your own experience feeling like it's flat, like feeling like it's missing something, feeling like it's misaligned. And yes, you have clients, but you don't feel fulfilled by that, right?
Yeah.
So it's that's a great example of showing exactly how, like, when you start with what it is that you need, and when I say what you need, not necessarily what you're needing from your clients, but what you need to express, what is just pouring out of you naturally, right? Like, these are the things that I love speaking about. These are the experiences I love creating. Then you are putting that experience out with that energy, and people are looking at it going, ooh, that sounds pretty exciting. And then they come to that experience and they get exactly what it is that they signed up for, because you are truly there being authentically yourself, expressing this in the way that you enjoy doing it, right? So you're fully showing up, your clients are fully showing up, and then that's where you have that magical connection.
Yeah. And I even have an example. It was last
Yes.
summer.
Yeah, tell
It
us.
was it was the summer, right? And I said, you know what? It's going to be amazing weather for the next week or two. I'm going to do yoga in the park.
Hmm.
So I advertise it as yoga in the park without really a lot of explanation of how my workshop works,
Yeah.
right? So people came expecting yoga, right? Whatever their assumption was
Yeah.
with yoga is, and most of them
There are
thought
many.
there are so many, and I and
Right.
I and I didn't specify what kind of
Uh-huh.
yoga, right? And
Yeah.
I didn't specify it was Kundalini yoga. It was just
Yeah.
yoga in the park. So
Yeah.
they all had their own interpretation of what that is, and they came in, and one person thought it was something like the gym. Some person thought it was Yin yoga. They all had their
Yeah.
own assumption, and then me having my outline looked nothing like what they wanted, and I said, "Oh, these are not I'm not able to give them what they want because
Right.
it's not, what I am offering." And they felt they wasted their time. I felt like I wasted my time. And it was a lesson learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is, because if you use those terms, so when I first opened my business, right? My business name is at Maytree, and from the very start, I knew that at Maytree, I mean, I created it from two Sanskrit words, Atman and Maitri. So it really means like a journey towards kindness to your soul or kindness to your own being. And um, so I knew that from the very beginning. And yet, when I started to create my website, when I started to create my marketing, etc., um, I fell into the same experience that everyone does when you start a business of, okay, now how do I attract the clients, how do I put this out there so people know what to expect? And I was, admittedly in a place where I wanted to make sure that I was taken seriously, but also people knew that this was going to be a spiritual experience, but I didn't want it to be seen as so woo or so spiritual that it turned some people off. Like I had that I have to please everybody kind of mentality. And I think that that's something that um, I won't say all of us experience, but I think it's a common thing for people to experience, right? And my website ended up feeling very clinical. Um, it was beautiful. I had a friend created it for me, and it was gorgeous, and she did a fantastic job, and she did everything I asked her to do, right? And it looked like you were going to a spa or a yoga class or even a sound meditation, right? It was something that was um like I said, it was very beautiful, but it forgot to include me and who I am, right? And an experience with me is not necessarily like going to a yoga class or a spa, right? Like I am colorful. I can be loud. I love music and pattern and color, and I'm an artist. So there was not a single color on that website that was like, I had this kind of like chartreuse green that I tried to bring into it, and it felt very bizarre amongst the whites and the golds and like all of these very like calming things, that I realized I was trying to um, like that was me, that part of my soul essence, like trying to burst onto the scene, but it felt weird because the rest of it really wasn't very fitting for me, right? It contained elements of things I do. I do sound healing. I do, I don't teach yoga, but I practice yoga. It's a huge part of my who I am, and Reiki, and so I tried to use those things as the entrance, right? And what I found was people would come in and they would be expecting to have an experience like going to a spa or to a yoga class, and then they would get in and I'd be like, let's explore your past life, and your dead grandmother's coming to me, and here's some art we're going to do, and they would be like, okay, I'm out, bye. you know
Yeah, it's like that with me because the there's a few incidents in the beginning. It was 2018, right? And this was when I'm still tapping into or just creating things, right?
Yeah,
And I didn't really know what my work looked like yet either because this was year one, right?
yeah.
And um but I know I am intense. I didn't know I was gonna put the intensity in there or what it looks like, right? So people are coming in because, I appear really calm and everything, and then, when they take the workshop, I'm like, "Let's go, it's time to go, come on, come on," and then they're like, "We can't keep up, we're done." I was like, "What do
What's
you
so
mean?"
funny is I don't feel like you're intense at all. Like I'm just like, oh, she's super chill. I don't see you as intense. I see you as a match for my energy, but I also don't feel myself as intense, but I can be to some people, right? So yeah, it's I love that you have that experience too.
So then so then I started to describe my class, there's a level of intensity, is very immersive, is very experiential, so
Yeah,
that they have an understanding of what it is. And you know because maybe they're not about that, they're looking
yeah,
to just chill, right?
yeah.
Or have, like, at the end of the day, relax, and then I smack them with, like, a hardcore workout, before they do some journaling about their goal, and they're like, "What is this?"
I
Yeah,
Kundalini yoga is not it is very different than like a yin class. And
yeah,
I love yin yoga. I love it. I also love Kundalini. But I would go to them for very different reasons.
yeah,
Like I think that really is the heart of what we're talking about, that the more specific you can be about what it is you're doing, then people can choose whether they want to do that or not, right? Like if you don't
yeah,
know what it is you're getting into, then you end up confused. And um, the story of I read so you I think we both said we were both like have studied Reiki master or whatever, and um, or practitioner, doesn't matter. But when someone comes in for a Reiki session, it's not a hands-on experience in the same way it is like when you go to get a massage, right? And I read this article. I remembered reading when I was studying Reiki that, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I had some emotions about it. I had some thoughts about it at the time, but I remembered reading it, and it was this guy who was like, I went for this Reiki session, and what the hell is this? Like, I got in there, I get on the table, I'm laying there, I'm waiting for it to start. I'm continuing to wait for it to start. Like, the person's just standing there. She's not saying anything. She's not doing anything. She's just walking around me, like never laid a hand on me, never did anything. And then like 45 minutes later it was over, and she's like, "You're all done. How do you feel?" And he was like, "I just wasted all this money because I just laid here and she just like walked around me." And what I thought was, like, you didn't know what you were getting into, but also the person probably should have explained what you were getting into. Although there was an assumption that you know that coming in because you signed up for Reiki, right? Like, why did you sign up for something that you're not really sure what it is? Um, and that's, that's kind of a judgmental thing to say on all fronts, because I've definitely signed up for things thinking it's one thing and it turns out to be something else. And is that the fault of someone else, or is it the fault of me, or is it really no one's fault? It's just an experience that happens to us sometimes, and an opportunity to dig further next time.
Yeah, it is that. It's really is taking the experience saying, "Oh, what did I not do in
Yeah.
order to what did I not do, or what did I need to do so that
Mhm.
I won't repeat that experience," right?
Yeah.
It's just really that, right?
Yeah.
So in in my work, there is an element of not knowing, right? Because I don't usually go according to my outline all the
Yeah.
time. Most of actually, I never go according to my outline.
I like
It's
that you're
just
like, I'm just gonna be really upfront about it. Like, I never do.
never. I have it, and then I see everybody, and I'm like, they're not, it doesn't call for whatever that next step is. And then when I see them as a group, I'm like, oh, I have something else that I know would be better for them, right?
Yeah.
So I'm known to like go off tangent, but it's not really off tangent, right? I'm just going according to like what they need. And
Yeah.
then there is an element where at some point I will just do something really swiftly and have them do something without explaining, because
Mhm.
sometimes the lag time of it is like you need to strike it, at that exact time to deliver the experience that they need, right? My It's more like I am more concerned with like delivering that impact so they can understand it and feel it in their body, right? If I wait and explain for a sentence or two, there sometimes it doesn't happen. So there is that element of surprise, in there. And then later I will tell them, you might have felt like this, you might have felt like that, but that's okay. It's natural, it's normal,
Yeah.
so that's what I do. And I actually got that from um, teachers or mentors that I follow in the past, where I've gone to retreats where there is no schedule. I remember I've gone to a retreat and the schedule was really sparse, and I got really nervous. I said, "Oh my goodness, what are we supposed to do?" Because I was so good at following
Mhm.
instructions and knowing where everything I needed to. It's security, right?
Yeah.
I needed to know how
Well,
everything
that's that earth
flow.
energy right there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I water need to
Yes,
flow. So
exactly.
so then I learned to let that go. After day 1, it really, really, it was so uncomfortable, but then once I let it go
Hmm.
and be like, "Let go of that control, it's gonna be okay, and it's gonna be safe," then I was starting to have the experiences that I'm meant to have at
Yeah.
the retreat, right? And there's a lot of element of surprise, and then I understood why they were put there, because in life there's no certainty
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
ever. You may think it is, right? But the only constant is change. So I do have to get used to the change. And there's going to always be elements of surprise. So that how are you going to be able to adjust to that to that shift?
Right.
Is all the time. So then I get it after a while.
But you still are, so like there's a Reiki concept that I talk about all the time, which is flow, is form and no form, right?
Yeah.
And what you just described, there is a form to that. You signed up for this retreat, there's a beginning and there's an end. That is the form, right? This is the container. And then within that container is the flow. And what one way that you as a person, and I'm speaking to you specifically, but I'm also speaking to anyone who is resonating with this right now, is when you feel, if structure, having that structure is a thing that really helps you feel safe, then find the structure, because there
Mm.
is a structure within anything. Even a river, as it flows, is contained within a structure, right? And so it has boundaries. And so you may need to find, okay, keep going out, keep going out, keep going out. What are the boundaries? And when you know then what the boundaries are, then that's your safety. And then
Mm.
within that, you can flow, right? And then flip it to the opposite. If you're someone who really needs to have the flow in order to feel yourself, to feel that you are able to express yourself and be creative, and that's what safety feels like to you, then bring it in, bring it in, bring it in, until you can find that spaciousness, right? Because even between each breath there's a pause. And so there is that flowing of the breath that happens, but the structure is the pause between each. So finding that space for you. And this is where, I'm going to bring in that term again of layers of influence, because there are all these ways that we do know and we do express ourselves. And those are our ways of knowing and being. But there are also these layers of influence around us and within us. And so knowing your ways of knowing and being, that's one layer of influence. That's an internal layer of influence. Knowing what environments make you safe, that is not make you actually physically safe, but give you the security, the sense of security, right, that you're looking for, that make you feel safe. That's another layer of influence. And you can keep expanding that out, right? So there are things like different practices that we do, different ways of exploring ways of knowing, like astrology or the I Ching, or, there are tons of ways, Reiki being one of them, right? So these are layers of influence on us, that we can then utilize to help us find that safety and security, to help us find our communication, right? How do we communicate? Human design is great for that. Finding ways that we really feel like we are thriving in our creativity, and utilizing that. So when you can find those alignments, then you're able to be more authentically yourself, but also more productive in what it is that you're trying to do. And that kind of ties it back into that, like, that's really, I didn't mean for us to have a conversation about marketing, but somehow it seems to be the thing that's coming up today, is just like soul-based marketing. This is really what it looks like, right?
Yeah, it flows. It's whatever meant to come out, it's really meant to come out, and it's for, whatever it's meant to come out for others. Perhaps somebody out there that's listening, who
Yeah,
needed to hear something like that. So
absolutely.
I trust it now in however it goes and however it flows.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing also in your business, right? Like you're trusting that flow.
Yeah.
Um, and that is something to celebrate, especially, as a solopreneur, as someone who is creating a business, to be an expression of who you are, and to attract people that are in alignment with that expression, right? And need that. Maybe your way of being is someone else's way of knowing.
Right.
And so that creates that complementary relationship, that attraction that happens. Um, so that's really beautiful that you are doing that, and allowing that flow to come in. And even, I used to, we've talked about how we both have that earth energy, right? When I used to create workshops, classes, whatever experiences, I would try to write out minute to minute, because I came from an educational background, where you had to submit lesson plans, and a lot of times those plans were like, here's the objective, And then you have to actually do like step by step by step. My big secret here, I never wrote the steps before I taught the lesson. And I would create the objective. Like I know what it is we're going to do. Honestly, to be completely honest, most of the time I would start with the materials. I would go and had these supply closets. I would open up the closets and I would look at them and I would say, what is exciting to me today? Like, what do I want to work with? And then I would take those materials out and I would look at them and I would like tune into the energy of, now I didn't do this knowingly that I was doing this energetically at that point. I thought this was just, I actually judged myself a lot for doing this because I thought I was like not following the rules and, all the things, but like I couldn't do it the other way. I would get so blocked. It would be so boring. But when I did it this way, I would get these like amazing projects for out of the kids, and their parents and the other teachers would give me like amazing feedback and I'd be like, oh wow, this is really great. But then I still had this like running guilt, like I totally pulled this out of my ass. Like I just I was winging it, and this isn't what teachers are supposed to do, and this isn't what education is supposed to be like. And I had that voice running in my head, and it made the whole experience not as pleasant as it could be, right? And so eventually I left teaching and went into professional development and then went into educational travel. And now here I am where I am now. But it took me that whole journey of trying to recreate that same pattern of I create things from the big essence of it and then pull it back in, right? And then the steps come later. I can document those steps after I've already done it so it can be repeated if someone wants to repeat it. But I'm not the person who is meant to repeat those steps. Like that's not who I am. That's not the way I work. And so with you, it sounds like you have a similar process of kind of it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe do you have that voice that tells you like you need to have that lesson plan? And is that actually serving you?
It's funny you say that. Yeah, I have an outline, right? And I do write down the minutes down to the T.
I have done that too.
And I would calculate it at the end. Okay, is this 60 minutes? Is this 90 minutes? I mean, but I never go according to those when I do the classes because it doesn't call for that, right?
Yeah.
But where I did get stuck on was uh, when I did create the lesson plan where they have the teacher's manual, right? And then they would have the lessons created there. But I don't want to do those lessons because that doesn't is not fulfilling for me
Right.
at all. It's just me dictating somebody, now you do this, now you do this, right? I'm not putting myself in there. So what I did was I veered off and I felt guilty that I veered off in the beginning because I had just broken the rules, right?
Yep.
But it was extremely fulfilling to use what I learned and made it mine, right?
Yes.
And just reinvent it or add some other things, like some other modality that I have learned because it actually worked so much better because I was able to deliver it, right? Using my own style and delivering it and giving the message and giving that person the impact
And
that they
that
needed.
is that Virgo energy, right? So that
Yeah.
is Virgo energy is, and Elizabeth just commented on this, and I know Elizabeth, you're a Virgo too, aren't you? She said, flying by the seat of your pants is not looked at as productive, but it is exactly what creatives do that result in great works. Amen. Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, she says yes. She's a Virgo. um, so uh that Virgo energy is that rhythm and cycle, right? It's those rhythms but with meaning, right? So
Yeah.
it's bringing in those rhythms have to have meaning. And so yeah, you're probably really good at writing a lesson plan. I am really good at writing a lesson plan, but the second it's done, I don't want to teach that lesson plan. It does not excite me anymore because it's already been expressed, it's already been created. I don't need to do it anymore. And it's so much more fulfilling and so much more meaningful for me to have that interaction. And then if you want to record that, sure. Like if somebody, because there are people who need that, right? Who need the structure first and then can find that flow within it. But for me, I need to kind of have that experience, and then the structure can come from that. And it's funny because I always thought like I do need a lot of structure. Um, but the way that I experience structure is very different than a lot of other people do.
Yeah, it's like that for me too. What I do is I know you said you look at colorful like
Mhm.
clothes or things
Yeah,
like lots of colors, right? So
yeah,
for me, in order for me to flow or just have that creativity, it's really not the structure, right? Because the structure is so confining for me.
yeah.
Like I feel like I'm being squeezed, right? So I would listen to music. I would have a
Yeah,
playlist and I would just start somewhere. And
yeah,
then from there, I would have emotions that come up, and then the ideas would just flow. And then I usually make a playlist first before I have anything. So then these lists of songs, and I would put them in a certain order, right?
mhm.
They're the one, this become the playlist actually becomes my lesson plan.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
That's
ooh,
the
they can do
container.
this. Yeah, they can do this with this song, they can do this with that song. So that's how I do mine. I didn't know that that was my process, but after doing it for some time, I realized, oh, this is really my process because I had to find it.
Yep.
I had to
And
find it.
do you get a lot of comments from your participants about the music?
Yeah, they want the playlist all the time,
Yeah,
and then I would
because
have to make it public.
that is, so this is the magic of it right there, right? Your clients, your ideal clients are attracted to your unique process. And it shows in their feedback. They're excited about the music. That's your process. That's your lesson plan, right? So whatever happens within that, you're attracting them with that container. And it's not about the step-by-step process that happens within it, because that contains within is contained within the essence of that, right? You're putting out that energetic blueprint, let's call it, to your participants, and they're saying like, yeah, that is something I want to go explore. That space right there, I want to go in there and learn more about it. And that's all they need.
Yes, I'm having the aha moment because I usually give them I can give them the same breath work, but I change the music so that different tempos, different rhythm, because it would evoke a different emotion. And that is really what I'm going for. So I don't really swap out the movement of the breath work, really. I swap
Yeah,
out the music.
yeah.
Yeah.
So your emphasis is on the music because that's what's really attracting people. And you tell them like, inside of this container there's going to be some breath work, there's going to be some other things, but we're going to use music to really create the space, and then we're going to flow within that space with our breath, with our movement, with our creativity. I feel like you bring some artwork maybe into your work, or journaling, or whatever it is. Like, these are some of the modalities that we may use within this, but here's the container. It's held by music. We use music to help us flow through the space. And when they get to know you well, they know that container, they know that you're going to intuitively be creating the space that they need. Like, one of my very a good friend of mine, and also my very favorite yoga teacher ever, whenever I would go into her classes, she would just, I mean, she just knew. It was like she created that lesson plan for me every single time. And I think a lot of times she actually does it intuitively. I think she does have some container structure for it, but then there's some intuitive flow between in the midst of it. But every time I go to her class, I'm like, she wrote this class for me. She created it exactly for me. And that's what people want from your experience. And they get that when you show up authentically doing the thing you do in the way you do it best.
Yeah. I've even gotten requests. They said, "Oh, why don't you just record it at your own time and then just have people sign up?" And I said, "That doesn't work because I'm just with myself and it, the energy doesn't translate very well. I
Yeah.
don't know who I'm creating it for because it is personalized to the person or to the group as a collective, whoever is coming in there."
Yeah. And That's a good way. I just wanted to bring this comment in first. So Elizabeth says, sounds like a great safe space to experience emotion. Yeah, because you have that, um, you know what you're walking into, right? You know that you're going to be able to go in there and express emotions, and that is a part of that experience. Um, and what I was going to say about, you know, not everyone, there's all this pressure to create evergreen content as a solopreneur, as a wellness entrepreneur, because this is the way that you're going to create a passive income. That's wonderful. And I do agree that a passive income is a beautiful thing, but maybe it's not in the way, maybe for you, it's not by pre recording classes because you need that interaction, that live interaction. And that's you knowing your ways of being, right? You know that you're in your best thriving flow when you are in conversation with, and I say conversation not necessarily vocally, but energetically, with the people that you are guiding, and you can guide best in that way. So your evergreen content can be something that maybe is a guided meditation, or maybe it's just a playlist. Maybe you create playlists and that somehow becomes your evergreen content, right? Or it doesn't have to be your main thing that is then somehow, you know, provided in the same format. It can be just one element of that. And if the element of it is the music, is the playlist, then that can become the piece that people are most drawn to. So, yeah, it's about aligning this for not just for your clients, but it's aligning it for how you are in your best and highest expression of yourself. And then that becomes the thing that your clients are automatically drawn to. So, um, sorry, go ahead and
Yes.
move on to that.
No, yeah. It's you just shift my perspective. It's really good because I was so concentrated on the different tools and modalities, and then and then I would say, okay, how would I have somebody feel this way or induce this type of feeling and that feeling or have it flow, right? And I use the music, but I always thought it was the tools and not the music. But now I realize, no, it is really the music. The music is what is the catalyst, right? The music is the structure, is the it controls uh the way somebody experience the healing modalities that I use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, what a great exploration and
Oh yeah.
conversation. So much fun. And thank you to everyone who was here live. I know Angela was here and Elizabeth, and I think some other people popped in and out live. So thank you to everyone who was engaging in the conversation with us and joining in the future as well. So, Miauwling, tell people, how can they experience this beautiful work that you do? How can they connect with you? And is there anything that you have coming up that you'd like to share about?
Yeah. Well, first of all, they can connect with me on Instagram. My
Great.
handle is at Miauwling. They can also connect with me on Facebook. My
Beautiful.
Facebook name is Miauwling Wee.
Okay.
And I have workshop. It's called Deep Love. It's 90 minutes, and that is really what I'm have been describing for the entire time. You know, it's immersive, experiential, you know, and it's intense. And then now I know how to describe it a little bit more
Beautiful.
specifically. No, now I understand that it is the playlist. Thank you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
that.
You're welcome. This was what
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. So, so we'll put in all of those links for you into the comments on all the platforms where we share this, and it will be available in a bit on my Instagram feed as well as later as a podcast form as well. So I'll share that out once we get those up and running. But it's been a huge pleasure having you here today, Miauwling. And again, thank you to everyone who's come and shared in this experience. And I'm feeling called to just say out loud also, if you're interested in working with me in this fashion as well, do contact me. I actually really love helping people to do exactly what we were just doing here for fun today, which is to explore your process and to really look at like what pull out those gems, right? What are the layers of influence for you? How can you utilize them in your life and work? And then create these experiences that do attract your ideal clients. So would love to explore that with you further. And you should all have my contact information, but you can find me at matry.com. And I'll see you all on the next episode. So have a great weekend if you're watching live. Otherwise, have a great day wherever you are in the world. All right. Bye.